The NICU was meant to be sacred. At 24 weeks and 3 days, my son Oliver decided it was time to make his grand entrance into the world. A tiny fighter weighing just 1 pound 7 ounces wrapped in wires and tubes. The doctors called him a micro-preemie. I called him my miracle. For 2 months I lived in that hospital with the Ronald McDonald House becoming my second home. The rhythmic beeping of Oliver's monitors became my lullaby. Oxygen saturation, heart rate, respiratory rate. I knew those numbers in my sleep. Actually, I woke up countless times, jolted by even the slightest dip. My husband Daniel worked double shifts to keep our insurance active. We had already drained our savings during the emergency C-section and the first month of his care, but Oliver was gaining weight, breathing more on his own. The doctors remained hopeful. Maybe another month, Dr. Patel said, he's a fighter. That's when my parents decided to visit. They had been absent during our crisis, preoccupied with my younger brother Connor's senior year at Stanford. Pre-law, their star student, seemingly perfect in every way. While I was sleeping in hospital chairs, they attended Connor's mock trial competitions and fraternity weekends. Now they were finally coming to meet their grandson. Mom announced over the phone as if 2 months late was perfectly on schedule. Connor had a big interview with a law firm tomorrow, they said, so they'd swing by on their way. They arrived at 3 p.m. dressed as if heading to a country club. Mom wrinkled her nose at the hand sanitizer protocol and Dad kept checking his phone. Connor, with his perfectly styled hair and expensive suit, looked bored and barely glanced at Oliver through the incubator. "Are you sure he's normal?" Connor asked, peering skeptically. "He's premature, Mom," I replied. "But he's perfect. He just needs time to grow." Connor barely acknowledged Oliver before reaching into his pocket for his phone. "My phone's dying. Where can I charge it?" he asked. Mom gently chided him. "It really does need charging. His important call is in an hour. There's a family lounge down the hall." I kept my eyes on Oliver, who was having a good day, his little chest rising steadily on just 30% oxygen. "That's too far," Connor whined. "They'll have bad reception there." That's when Dad noticed it. The bright yellow outlet next to Oliver's incubator, the one connected to the medical equipment. "Perfect," he said, reaching for the cords. "Dad, no!" I shouted, lunging forward, but he had already unplugged the pulse oximeter to plug in Connor's phone. Instantly, alarms blared, beeps, shrieks, electronic wails that drew nurses rushing in. Oliver's oxygen monitor flickered out and his lips began to turn dusky. Without the monitors, we couldn't see his oxygen levels or heart rate. Nurse Patricia quickly checked his pulse manually while another scrambled to reconnect everything. His oxygen levels plummeted. "Get respiratory here now," Patricia commanded. I watched in horror as they increased his oxygen and worked desperately over his tiny body. What felt like hours was only 2 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. Finally, the monitors flickered back on. Oxygen at 82%, dangerously low. His heart rate still elevated. My baby was struggling. "Stop overreacting," Dad told the nurses dismissively. "Babies are tough. He's fine." Patricia's eyes flashed with fury. "Get out," she snapped. "Security is on their way. You just endangered a critical patient." Mom protested, "We're family." "You unplugged life support equipment," Patricia shot back. "Get out now or I'll have you arrested." Meanwhile, Connor, oblivious to the chaos, was complaining about his phone's battery. Only 15% left and he needed to charge it for his interview. "Enough," I finally yelled, voice trembling. "Security now." They were escorted away, Mom grumbling about rudeness, Dad muttering about millennials and Connor still whining about his phone. Oliver spent the next 12 hours fighting to stabilize. His oxygen needs increased and he suffered 2 episodes of bradycardia, his heart rate dangerously dropping. Dr. Patel was called at midnight, softly explaining that setbacks can happen, but it broke my heart to see how much progress we'd lost. I didn't sleep that night, nor the next. Daniel flew back from a work trip, taking emergency leave. We kept vigil as Oliver battled to recover. 3 days of progress erased, all because my parents believed a phone call was more important than their grandson's life. But what they didn't realize was that the NICU had cameras, every second recorded in high definition. The hospital's legal team was deeply interested when Patricia filed her incident report. And they didn't know that Daniel's best friend from college, now a malpractice attorney, was quietly watching. We weren't planning to sue. The hospital had done everything by the book. But Jake knew other lawyers, specialists in criminal endangerment, reckless endangerment, even elder abuse law, because intentionally sabotaging medical equipment is a crime, no matter the patient's age. As Oliver fought to regain his strength, I started making calls. First, to Stanford Law's ethics board. Did they know one of their star students had endangered an infant's life? The footage clearly showed Connor unplugging the monitors during a critical moment. Law firms care about character, and I was determined they'd see what kind of person he was. Next, I contacted my father's employer, who managed hospital administration. The irony wasn't lost on me. They were horrified to learn about the incident, especially since liability concerns could threaten their reputation. Finally, I reported Connor's actions to Adult Protective Services, not to elder abuse, but to assess whether he was capable of understanding basic safety warnings. If he'd unplugged life support for his phone, what else might he do? And then there was the real revenge, using Connor's own words against him. My little brother had always boasted about his connections, how he networked his way to the top, posting gleefully about his perfect law student life, cheating on exams, getting drunk, showing off his success. For years, I had been screenshotting everything, collecting evidence of his arrogance and reckless behavior. Because sometimes, the truth has a way of surfacing, especially when you least expect it. Connor had a secret life he thought no one knew about. Messages sent to girls from a throwaway account, the kind he believed no one could trace. He claimed to be studying at parties, but behind the scenes he was living a different truth. Every DM, every screenshot he sent, every video was stored away, hidden from prying eyes. Except, of course, I knew. The legal community is small. Smaller than Connor realized. When partners at law firms started receiving anonymous packages containing printed screenshots and videos of the NICU incident, along with documentation exposing Connor Fitzgerald's true character, everything changed. Interviews began to be cancelled, opportunities evaporated. "I don't understand," he texted me in frantic messages. "Suddenly, every firm is going in a different direction. Even my safety schools rejected me." I didn't reply. I was too busy holding Oliver, who was finally stable enough for skin-to-skin contact, kangaroo care. His tiny body against mine, his heartbeat echoing against mine, was a miracle. Despite everything, he was alive. Meanwhile, my parents scrambled to do damage control. Mom posted on Facebook about how they'd been kicked out of the hospital for simply trying to help their grandson. But the comments didn't go as expected. Turns out some nurses have social media accounts too, and opinions. Their post went viral, badly. Screenshots spread across parenting groups, medical forums, and legal ethics discussions. Hashtags like #nightmare started trending. Connor's Instagram followers plummeted by thousands daily. Within a week, Dad lost his job. Hospital administration couldn't keep someone who'd demonstrated such reckless judgment around critical medical equipment. Mom's book club politely suggested she take a break. Their church small group suddenly had scheduling conflicts. Connor never landed that law firm job nor any other. His once promising career at Stanford was now a distant memory. The infamous video of him fussing about his phone battery while my baby fought to breathe made its rounds in certain circles, forever etched as a cautionary tale about character and trust. He ended up taking a retail job. His Stanford law degree, meaningless now, overshadowed by his ruined reputation. But that wasn't the end of it. 3 months later, Oliver finally came home. 4 pounds of perfection, no longer needing oxygen support. The same week, I got a call from the district attorney's office. They'd reviewed the NICU footage and were preparing to press charges. Reckless endangerment of a minor, interference with life support, and more. My parents were desperate to fight back, hiring expensive lawyers, draining their retirement savings. But video evidence is hard to dispute. Dad received 6 months in jail. Mom got probation and community service. Connor wasn't charged, but his name appeared in every headline. His fledgling legal career was over before it truly began. They tried to reach out during the trial, begging for forgiveness, asking me to speak on their behalf. I never responded. My focus was on Oliver. His physical therapy, his developmental checkups, rebuilding the life they nearly stole from us. And life has a strange way of balancing things out. 2 years later, I was at a pediatric follow-up when I struck up a conversation with another mother, Jennifer Morrison. She told me her husband was the hiring partner at Morrison & Associates. Her eyes widened when I shared stories of Oliver's nights in the hospital. Connor Fitzgerald? He's your brother? She asked, surprised. He's the phone charger guy. Apparently, the story had become legendary within the firm, a cautionary tale about character, trust, and integrity. Morrison and Associates had dodged a bullet by not hiring him. Jennifer explained, anyone who would endanger a baby for a phone charger can't be trusted with clients' lives and livelihoods. Your son saved us from making a terrible mistake. She paused, then asked gently, is he doing okay now? I showed her a photo on my phone. Oliver at 2, chubby-cheeked and laughing, chasing bubbles in our backyard. No sign of the fragile preemie who had fought so hard to survive. He's perfect, I said. The last I heard about my family was from a cousin. They'd moved to a small apartment in another state, trying to escape the notoriety. Connor was working at a cell phone store. Ironic, given his earlier obsession. Mom and Dad lived on Social Security, their savings exhausted by legal fees. They'd sent a final, unopened letter. Pages of blame-shifting excuses claiming I'd ruined their lives over a simple mistake. I threw it away without reading it. Oliver was taking his first steps now, and I refused to miss a second. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the phantom beeping of NICU monitors. But when I peek into his room, I see his chest rising and falling, wires and alarms long gone. He's 4 now, starting preschool in the fall. Teachers say he's sharp, full of energy, a little miracle. His favorite toy is a plastic doctor's kit, and he loves checking everyone's heartbeat, mimicking the monitors he no longer remembers. When he asks about his grandparents, I keep the explanation simple. Some people aren't safe to be around, so we built our own family. Patricia, the nurse who saved his life, who's become his honorary grandmother. Dr. Patel, who cried tears of joy at his first birthday. The other families we've met through the hospital who understand what we've been through. Real family doesn't unplug your life support. Real family guards it with their lives. Connor's phone, he finally managed to charge it. Cost him everything. But at least he didn't miss that important call. Though frankly, I doubt it was worth it. The interview he was so desperate for? He failed it. Rattled from causing a medical emergency, he couldn't even perform when it mattered most. The universe has a strange sense of humor after all. I sleep peacefully now, knowing my son is safe. Knowing those who endanger him can never come near him again. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't elaborate plans or revenge plots. It's simply telling the truth and letting the consequences unfold. They had no idea what was coming next. Neither did I. Honestly, I had no master plan that night. Just a mother's fury and a baby fighting to breathe. And that, somehow, was enough. More than enough. It was everything.